And welcome to your Starting Point with me, Dan Ricardo. And this is where I get to speak to successful people in their careers. And today I have the pleasure of speaking to a good friend, and Kelly Monday. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks.
Well, thanks for taking time out and speaking to me today. I think I introduced you in regards to being successful in their careers. Is that something that you would think yourself of?
I think success is defined in so many different ways. What would I say? I would say I'm proud of my achievements. Maybe that's a measure of success, right? People, I guess, can define success through money, through title, all different types of things. And I tend to look at it as have I achieved goals? Have I driven purpose? Have I made a difference? And some of the work that I've done in my career, I feel like I have done that, whether that's with customers or whether that's with the company that I'm working at, or whether that's children with dyslexia, where I've been helping show technology. So yeah, I feel I could define it as successful.
Yeah, I suppose you haven't finished yet, have you? I suppose so. You've got a lot more to.
I'd love to retire, but yeah,
So I
it's never
suppose,
finished.
yeah, if you say you're successful, it kind of makes people think that you're done now. But obviously, you've got
Yeah.
a lot more to give. So, um, well, I won't let you blow your own trumpet, but I mean, you have been in sort of the IT industry for over 25 years. You work for the biggest companies in the world. I think people will recognize the names of IBM and Microsoft, and also Xbox. I think you were head of sales channel, EMEA. I think it's Europe, Middle East, and
EMEA channel
Africa.
sales, yeah,
Yeah,
for Xbox.
right. Okay, so that sounds impressive. What does that actually consist of then?
So if you think about all of our retail partners, so Currys, John Lewis, EE actually as an example, as well as a telco. So all our partners that sell Xbox out to our consumers, my team would manage those accounts and make sure that we had the right offers and the right placement and all of those things so that our Xbox fans could get the products they wanted at the price they wanted at the time they wanted. So that was the team that I was looking after for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you for stats or data, but I reckon that's a pretty penny across those regions. That's probably per annum. So that's a big responsibility. I would have thought. Is it kind of scary? Is that something like a job that you would have probably
Um,
been scared about when you were younger, or is it kind of something you've kind of grown into and you're comfortable with?
I mean, if I go back to my career heritage has been in enterprise world, right? So I've spent over 20 years in enterprise sales. So moving into the consumer space over the last couple of years was quite scary, was a big jump, especially when you've been very comfortable, you have a big network. And I think, first of all, I was looking after the UK. So that was all consumer products. So Xbox, Surface, Office 365, everything you would see in a Currys, John Lewis, everything you'd want to buy from Microsoft as a consumer. And then when we reorged, the EMEA role just for Xbox came up. So yeah, I would say it was quite daunting to take on something so new, and a new team as well that was spread across every geography in EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So having teams in all the different countries, but it gave me a new skill set. And so while it was scary, I knew that I was going to be learning from the experience. And I think that's something to always bear in mind, that if you keep learning, that's a real positive through your career, because it's really easy to get bored.
Yeah, and I don't think it doesn't matter how good you are, how experienced you are. You're always going to learn something on a new job, aren't you? You can't just go and go, right, I know it all.
No, never be a know-it-all, always be a learn-it-all, as our Microsoft CEO would say. So never assume that you know what you're doing either, because there's different ways of doing something that you maybe haven't thought about. So I would always be open-minded to different opportunity that you potentially hadn't thought about. Like I hadn't thought about moving from enterprise to consumer at the time. A sponsor of mine suggested the role for growth and development, and the skills that I got were invaluable, but as scary as it was. So I think yeah, being open-minded to opportunity is really important, and don't make assumptions about what that opportunity is, because you can quickly sort of close doors down.
I think you touched on it earlier in the intro that proud of the work that you've done in regards to dyslexia. So you'd probably call yourself a proud dyslexic, and I've seen you very proactive on social media, on LinkedIn, and you kind of a dyslexic advocate. I mean, what does that kind of consist of? So what does that involve? How's that come about, and why have you decided to be so kind of vocal um, and positive around the subject matter?
I think, well, so obviously I've known you a long time, and it was at university that I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And at that point in time, no one ever told me about the positives of being dyslexic. It was always, you're going to have difficulty doing this. This is what it's going to stop you or restrict you from being. And so it was always kind of something that I hid from my work environment, and socially felt quite awkward about and embarrassed, I guess, even at uni. And then as I progressed and I got older and I learned more about it myself, it was really about probably my mid-30s work when I was working at Microsoft, was beginning to get comfortable with what dyslexia was, what it meant to me, but actually recognizing the things I was good at was because of my dyslexia. So actually flipping that round to, instead of the negatives, seeing the positives of having dyslexia and being very open about it. And so the minute I started to explain to people, this is how I work, it's because of this is how I see information, these are the positives, it was like a weight got lifted. I wasn't covering it up anymore, and I was just being myself. And at that point, then technology was really starting to like evolve in terms of the dyslexia space, and immersive reader and things like dictation and speech to text and all these things that were making my life a lot easier. And I just said, I don't want people to feel like I have for the last kind of 15 years, and started to get involved more and more internally in the company in our accessibility kind of technology, and making sure the awareness is there, and the awareness is there with my corporate big customers. So when I worked with Centrica and I worked with WPP, making sure that they're aware of all the amazing technology that could help people with disabilities, including dyslexia. And so we ran kids clubs, we showed the children how to use it with dyslexia, show them, take all the pain of the reading, writing part away and let them be creative. And that sort of evolved to them when I was in the consumer space, being able to work on a campaign that was aimed at, you know, everyday people on the street, and say, this technology is there to help you. And it's not just dyslexia, it's all sorts of kind of areas of disability and accessibility. But, you know, we don't talk about it enough, about how technology is a massive enabler. And I just felt genuinely passionate about this area. And what I would say is, it motivates me. So having that purpose alongside my day job, it's great that I enjoy my job, but being at a company that allows you to use the scale of what they are as a platform for good. So being passionate about something, putting that passion into something and seeing that come to life, I would say is what motivates me. And some people will say, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. And when you enjoy it and when you're passionate about something, it's not a lot of work. It actually makes the other stuff more bearable sometimes, because you've got something more worthy to focus on, right? So I would say, you know, throughout my career, just thinking about whatever your interests are, if you're passionate about accessibility, if you're passionate about gender equality, if you're passionate about the environment, if you're passionate about, you know, helping countries evolve that are not as progressed as we are, all sorts of things you can get involved in companies. And I think finding what your passion is and your purpose will give you a lot more satisfaction in your career, which, you know, comes back to your point around do you feel successful? It's when I've had that child actually say to their parent when we did the kids clubs, Mummy, I can read. You know, and that's nothing to do with the pure day job, right? But it's the company I work for that's allowing me to do that and give back. And so, you know, those sorts of things I think are also really important to evolve through your career. And it's not from day one. I wasn't as proactive or as active as I am when I first left university. I was just finding my feet. But I think as you grow, your skills grow and your kind of perspectives grow. It's something that people want more and more.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that massively. And it's really nice to be able to work on something that you're passionate on. And not everybody has the opportunity of doing that. But I think if people think long and hard about what they truly enjoy, what they see as sort of valuable to them, that they can find that within all sorts of industries, all sorts of different sizes of businesses. It just takes a bit of sort of researching and chatting to.
Yeah, you can't sit on your ass and expect it to just fall into your lap, right? Like, you have to be proactive. You have to go and grab the opportunities and drive it yourself sometimes, right? So, often companies offer a platform, offer opportunities, but people who kind of go after it and seek it out, they're the ones that are going to be successful. The people that just sort of kind of wait to be asked, don't wait to be asked, right? Go and interrupt and say, I want to be part of something.
Yeah, and I think this is sort of takes us now to what I remember. We met at university, and I always remember you as very driven, very organized. Have you always been like that?
No, and I'm probably less organized now than I was back then. Because actually I was probably overcompensating for some of my dyslexia, having to like put that structure in because I was so worried about losing control or somebody seeing that I couldn't quite do something. I think the driven piece has always been there. It just comes from, I wouldn't even say it comes from school, because I wouldn't say I was that academic. I didn't enjoy the classroom setting, right? I wanted to be creative. I wanted to be doing things. That's why I enjoyed our course so much, because it was a mixture of hands-on projects, teamwork. Yes, there was some essay writing that allows you to kind of really do some deep thinking, but it was all of those things combined. And school I found quite, restrictive, and everyone learns the same and I don't learn the same. And I don't think my motivation came from that. I think my motivation came more from my family's work ethic and seeing my parents work hard and thinking I had to work hard. I mean, they were shocked when I said I was going to university, frankly, because I hadn't really shown that much interest, but everybody else was going. So I thought, I'll give it a go. Interestingly, looking back, having been diagnosed with dyslexia at uni, it's probably why I didn't enjoy school. Is because things were hard and I didn't know why they were hard, and I didn't understand why I wasn't being understood. If I'd had the help that's probably more available now, it might have been a different outcome, but I still did really well at university at the end of the day. So, it worked out in the end. So I think my work ethic is driven from my family. It's driven from wanting to see an achievement, but I would say I also really like nice things, and I'm not going to be afraid to say that. And you work hard and you go on nice holidays and you do, right? So like, there's no shame in saying you want a nice lifestyle either.
You've got aspirations, haven't you? And
yeah, and it's not about money or putting a figure on something. It's more about providing for your family or going on holiday or having the nice car or whatever it is you're into. Like, my husband's really into cycling, having the bike that he wants, right? So I think, everyone spends and saves in all sorts of different ways, but I think your motivation comes from different places, and that's what drives you. And once you understand that, I think you can understand what maybe industry you go into, what's going to make you tick. But I had no idea at school. I just, did a degree, got my degree, fell into IT, ended up working in it for 25 years and really enjoying it. So
right, yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you. I mean, what you didn't really have an idea what you wanted to be or what you wanted to go into.
No, I remember probably years ago. I don't know if they had it at your school, where you had like a career advisor come in, random person who doesn't know you, that maybe tells you what you should be doing for the rest of your life.
You had to fill out you filled out a questionnaire.
Yeah, did one of those, and it came up as marketing because I enjoyed art, creativity, and maths. And so even though I ended up failing my A level in maths, I still got onto the course that I wanted. And there was only a couple of courses in the country, I think, that did pure marketing at that point.
Yeah.
And so off I trotted to Birmingham to do marketing. And that was all because of like a career advisor had said, oh, maybe that's what you should do. It's kind of that one moment.
That seems like it's worked out for you. I think my careers advisor advised me to be a librarian or a business admin or something like that. So that didn't really work out. But I mean, the only reason I knew that I wanted to go into marketing was because my dad did marketing. He spoke about it all the time. And he was really passionate about it. It was kind of like really all I knew. So that was it, really. But I mean,
I thought marketing was I thought marketing in its purest form was advertising, like creating adverts, creating fun things. You didn't realize all of the business knowledge that goes with it, actually, which was really good and a great grounding for going into a company like IBM and Microsoft, because you can, although you're at an IT company, you can do anything you want to do. You can do marketing, you can do sales, you can do HR, you can do, coding and technical roles. So I think that was the good thing of coming out of uni. I think, I'm not sure if you did the sandwich course, but I did the sandwich course.
I was going to touch on that. Did you do any work experience before that? But I know you took a year out to actually have proper industry experience, didn't you?
Yeah, so I think our course was optional. You could do a sandwich year or not. And I chose to do the year out in industry. And I got into IBM's kind of sandwich course, and I spent a year in their PC division, like doing marketing, which was effectively creating hard copy catalogs. If I look back, marketing, but I was in a marketing department and I got that sort of feel of what being in an office was like. And I think that year for me was quite pivotal because firstly, I came away from it thinking, oh, this degree means something. I'm working towards something. I understand what I could go and achieve next. Even when I was doing my degree, I wasn't sure what I'd end up doing.
Yeah.
And I ended up not doing marketing, right? So but then it opened up the fact that they did a graduate program. And so then I applied for their graduate program. And I knew that because you'd already been in, you would get a fair view on whether they would take you. But they were very clear that if you've got a 2, you had to get 2-1 or above. So there again is the motivation, right? It's like, I've got to work hard now if I want to get back into this company. And so, I kind of did that. And then I would say graduate programs are often very good because they give you different roles to do through the cycle of 2 years. So you get to try different things and then kind of pop out somewhere in the company of what you're going to do. So I popped out into IT delivery and realized I didn't want to do that because that was quite boring. I wasn't a very good project manager and I wasn't a very good tester because I just wanted things to work and not break. So I ended up in sales after a few years. So I think often people get a little bit tied up. I think it's amazing for people who do really have a defined path and they're like, this is what I want to go and do. And my 12-year-old right now wants to be a movie director, right? Like she's adamant. Whereas I didn't know. And so being okay with that, I think in hindsight, having to be able to tell my younger self, like, it'll work out, go with it a bit more, stop stressing so much, then that would probably have done me well. And also, my future self or Scarlett, things happen. I do firmly believe things happen for a reason. And I do think if you work hard and you're passionate about things, opportunity comes up. So, but you do have to work hard. It doesn't fall into your lap.
No. And it's interesting. So you don't, not many people know what they're going to be. And even if the people think they know what they're going to be, they probably don't end up being that particular thing. So at the younger age, you didn't really know. When you did kind of find out, it was probably several years into actually being in a career. Do you say, because obviously the first year was
I went into sales and thought, oh, that looks fun. They're all having quite a nice life. There seems to be money over there as well. And actually then doing it and working with customers and really helping to solve problems. I realized I liked solving problems, and I like the fact that technology can solve problems, make businesses more efficient. You can see the impact it has. I really enjoyed that, and I started to get very, very into that. And then I think that's where the global account management piece came in, because you are genuinely trying to help an organization transform. And when you work for a big company like an IBM or a Microsoft or a Salesforce, where I'm about to go, you have such a portfolio of solutions that you can go into these customers and genuinely try and help them evolve. And like, AI now is the big thing, and so that's exciting again in terms of kind of being in IT, and seeing where this world is going to go and being part of that.
Yeah, I suppose that is one of the benefits of going to a really big organization, is that the development you've got such a wide variety of where you can go, because the business is so big. You've got different departments, different industries, different types of customers, different size of customers. I mean, it's just endless amount of roles that you could have within a bigger company. So I suppose
those companies, I would say those graduate programs exist in companies that you may not think of, right? So my cousin works at M&S. She went on to their graduate program and ended up staying there for like 25 years. So and in various different business roles. And she's in IT, but she's in M&S, right? So, thinking about some of these brands that the companies and what they offer, I think when you do your research, you'd be surprised how many of them do offer these type of opportunities. And it's not just the big global brands, it can be a local brand, and it can be some really interesting brands. Like I've heard companies like Aldi offer really, really good graduate programs and stuff like that. So, and then, if you don't want to go to uni, you can go to companies who offer you the ability to study for your degree and work. I know Microsoft do that, for example. So you end up being there for 4 years, you work and you do your degree, and you end up, with so many skills coming out and a degree, which is amazing. And I think more and more I feel for graduates who need to differentiate themselves so much, because it's very competitive out there.
Yeah, you can't beat experience, I think, even if it's not just for your CV and profile, but also for you to learn and understand what you do actually enjoy, what you're good at, and what you're passionate about, I think. So
we had an internship in Microsoft Consumer, and I was interviewing for the interns to come into that. And one of our interns was actually, lots of them are like 16, 17. One of them was 24, because they've done their degree, but actually they wanted the experience, right? And you're looking at, having that diversity coming into the organization as well, and not saying, well, you kind of already got your degree, you're doing it roundabout the other way. Is you need to look at the different avenues that people are coming from if you want that diversity within the organization.
Yeah. And the kind of the last question really is having thought about all of this, if you could speak to a younger self, what's the one piece of advice that you would give a young Kelly?
Be yourself, because actually, I know it sounds really corny, but having spent a long time trying to fit a mold or hide my dyslexia, or, to the point, God, I remember at one point in my early career thinking, oh God, I'm a young woman and blonde, and feeling quite uncomfortable about that, and dyeing my hair brown to try and fit in more, right? And that didn't make me happy. So I think knowing that who you are is what makes you special, believing in that and having the confidence in that is something I wish I'd known earlier, because being myself has been so much, I feel like I've kind of got comfortable in my own skin, and I was able to grow my career even more. Whereas when I was covering and trying to be something else, it was exhausting. It's just tiring, and you can't keep that up forever. And I think the sooner you can understand yourself and know what makes you tick, and know what is the line that you're not going to cross, and what's your work-life balance mean, not because work-life balance is different for everyone, right? So don't put a label on it. You have to understand how you want to work, how you want to progress, what you want to leave behind you, right, as a successful footprint. So I think just getting comfortable with who you are and be true to that, and bring your whole self to work would be the advice I would have given myself. It would have saved me probably quite a lot of anxiety and stress for the first 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a massive piece of advice, really. I mean, it's like being in a relationship, having working for a business. You've got to be honest. You've got to be true to yourself. Because as an employer, I'm always trying to be as honest as possible with anybody that we're bringing on, because I don't want to sort of pretend we're going to offer something that we can't deliver, because at some point down the line, they're not going to be happy. And if you're not honest,
when you're dealing with customers, you could be really honest about what you're trying to achieve, and actually the relationship builds from there. I think honesty and trust is like, whether that's with your boss, whether that's with your customer, whether that's with your colleagues, if you can put that foundation in place, and even when you're going through a huge amount of business change, I would say to my team, I don't know. Like, I won't say nothing, because that makes people wonder. It's almost saying, I don't know yet. And just being honest about what I do and don't know can help as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pressure in these jobs. It can be stressful at times anyway, any job really. You don't need the additional stress of trying to pretend something that you're not. To try and be able to deal as best you can, to be able to be yourself, I think would be far more enjoyable in a workplace. So I think that's really good advice. So without further ado, we've got a quick fire round. Okay. Are you ready?
Okay.
So we've got 10 questions here. So what would you say is your favorite career milestone and why? It's quick fire round, by the way, Kelly.
I would say when I was managing WPP globally, and we went really in on accessible technology and working that into the campaigns that they were producing, or the empowerment that they had of their teams using the technology that we were working with. And I met some absolutely amazing people who inspired me in that organization. That made a huge difference and was quite pivotal to the way I look at the world, I would say right now. There's a couple of people there that are very special.
Wow, that's cool. And so I know you're a busy person, and with technology, I know you can be more productive, but it also means, a lot of people are working around the clock and all the rest of it. But what would you say, what's your kind of go-to productivity tool? Is there a particular app or tool, software, anything that you think makes you more productive?
So I love narration. So anything that, like, read aloud, because whether that's podcast, whether that's anything, right? Like having a document read to me rather than having to read it, which is more tiring. So anything that does, like, takes that pain of reading and writing away from me. So dictation and read aloud for me are like the biggest ones. And I would say if you start using them, you'll start realizing that it just makes life so much easier. I would say that.
Cool. I haven't tried that myself. I don't think that would suit me, but I'd probably waffle. But
You've got, like, building muscle memory when it's uncomfortable to start with, and then you start to realize, and it saves your eyesight.
What eyesight? So what would you? I think I know the answer to this. I think you mentioned it earlier. But what would you choose out of these two to, climb the career ladder? Is it brains or determination? If you had one of the two. I know you've got both.
Well, I've only got one, and it's determination. So, I would say absolutely determination. I think when people are focused, and I think brains is easy, you can't quantify brains because you need all types of different people in the room, different thinking. So, academic is great, but then creative thinker is great. So I think, don't worry about that, because if you're determined, you will find the right people to help you achieve what you need to achieve.
Yeah. Talent without determination is not going to get you anywhere, I don't think. But so there must be some idea when you were younger, you must have dreamt of being something when you grew up. So can you remember what you first wanted to be when you grew up?
A pop star.
You've still got time.
I still want to be a pop star. And also, I really wanted to be Michael Parkinson. So for, like, the audience of this may be a bit young, but he interviewed all the celebrities. So I just love that whole, like, interviewing, maybe James Corden and like that sort of thing, where you're finding out about people's lives and asking them about. So I love that interest.
Oh, there's still time. So, would you say you're a morning or an evening person? So,
Evening, I can't do mornings. Don't book before 9 o'clock.
so do you
And
work?
if you're my husband, don't speak to me before 11.
So, I mean, I can imagine being in your role with any role, but your role is quite competitive. Is it, you know, you're in big corporate business, probably everybody's after each other's jobs and all this kind of stuff. And you've got to kind of stay ahead of the game. Um, is there anything that you like a resource that you go to try and stay ahead of things, like a podcast or a website, newsletter, blog, or something that you read upon, or is it just books that to try and find an edge?
I'd love to say that I do podcasts and read books and all of that. I don't. I'm generally a learn by doing. So I learn from other people. I love to be around people that I learn from and are inspired by. So I think having mentors, having people in your life that you can go to and discuss things with is really important. I think I try not to consume too much because I think you can almost overanalyze everything, right? And so I try and be quite open-minded, and I don't really think about competition in that sense, right? I think about actually if someone wants my job, brilliant. How do I help them get that job, and somebody else will help me get the next one, right? So it's it's kind of a different way, I guess, of trying to think about the business world. And you know, yeah, of course, there's going to be cutthroat situations, but I think just lifting other people up is very important.
Well, it's a great way of looking at things, actually. I suppose you're a believer in karma, maybe also.
Yeah.
So again, I might have touched on this before, but every person experiences stress in the business at one time or another. What is your go-to stress relief technique?
Shopping.
Okay.
And Ben will kill me for saying, but I'm dreadful. So if I'm stressed, I will walk around the shops. And I think it's just because I'll remove myself from the situation I'm in and just go and like look at something different. Or so I have to basically, if I'm really stressed, I have to get away from the place I'm at. So I walk away from my laptop, get out of my office. Generally involves maybe walking around the shops, or it might involve a glass of wine with my friends. I'd love to say that I meditate and I yoga, and I don't do any of that. I know there's lots of people that do.
Well, it's definitely important to just get away from whatever it is, because there's no
Yeah,
point.
and you come back to it and you have a different perspective. And I guess that's what I'm saying. Like mine is I'll distract myself with looking at nice handbags or whatever it is. And and sometimes just walking around somewhere in a different environment, putting yourself in a different environment will help you see the problem differently. Especially if it's really winding you up. Like just take a step back.
I'm a strong believer that it doesn't matter how much you think about it, it's not going to help.
No.
So think about something else. So what's the one word you describe your career? You can use a couple if you like.
I would say unplanned and squiggly.
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 And what would you say is the most important trait in a teammate? Now, I know
Trust.
lots of teammates might offer different things, but what would you say is probably the most important to you?
Trust, 100%. Humor. You've got to be able to have a bit of a laugh, right? You've got to have some humor in the situations, because in the tough times, you need that. You need to be able to trust someone to talk to. You need somebody to vent to, but you need to also be able to laugh sometimes and just take the stress out of the situation. So, just being human, I would say, is important. I don't want robotics. I don't want a corporate answer all the time. I just want to let's talk it through. Let's trust each other enough to be grown-ups and have a discussion.
Yeah, it's probably going back to that be yourself element, and you want people to be themselves around you, I suppose. Last question. So I don't know how many interviews you've had in your lifetime, and I don't know how many people you've interviewed. But what is the one interview tip that you would give?
For me, it is practicing the questions. So thinking about what they're going to ask you, and then actually, preparing an answer and being able to succinctly say that, because there are a number of, it's often questions and they may be in different guises, but they're around certain themes. There will be about capability, competency. So I think, be like, I, for example, when I'm going into an interview situation, I have a PowerPoint deck and I'll think about all the things they might ask me, and I will have a slide that talk like that maybe visually I can talk to, or so I think it sounds really corny, like prepare, but actually rehearse so that you're not tripping over yourself when it comes to the real event. I think that's really important. And I think be prepared to also talk about yourself. So often people talk about their careers, I've done this, I've done that, but the person opposite you wants to know who they're going to work with, what do you enjoy doing, like get a bit of personality in there. And if you don't know or you don't understand, ask, right? Yeah. I had to do that recently and say, I'm really sorry, I don't actually understand what you're asking me. Otherwise you end up making up something, and then they're like,
no, you did right.
Even on the other side, as I'm interviewing someone, what I'm saying, the language I'm using may not be familiar to them. So it's fair that you say, can you clarify that? What do you actually mean? Can you give me an example? So that, especially as I'm quite visual, I need you to sort of paint a picture of what you're asking me so I can think about it. So it's okay to ask for clarification.
Yeah, no, it's really well said. And I think a lot of the questions, there's no right or wrong answer. I think as long as you're concise and honest and, you believe in what you're saying, there's a lot of questions that probably isn't a right or wrong answer. They're just wondering what your thoughts were on something. And as long as you're kind of concise and confident.
And some of them will be curveballs just to see how you react.
Yeah.
So, stay calm, just think about it. It's okay to pause. It's okay to ask a question back.
And remember, I think also they want you, or at least they want somebody. Okay. So this is a one-way thing. So you also hold the power. They could be sitting there and go, we really want this person. And they want to try and put their best foot forward to try and impress you. So
absolutely. Like, as I said, I'm going to be starting a new company soon, and it's very two-way. They want to know about me, but I equally want to know about them. What's this company like? What do they stand for? How do they work? What's their work ethic? How do they, how do they expect people to be in the office, out of the office? But all these things are important, and will determine whether you want to work for that organization. One thing I have learned, though, is who you work for is really important. Like the manager that you have will directly impact how you thrive at work. And so if you do get a bad feeling about somebody you're interviewing with, you don't gel, that should tell you it's not right, because it will be difficult.
Go with your gut a lot of the time. I think it's usually your gut is not wrong. So Kelly, I've loved this. I really appreciate it. I think you've given loads of really good advice. I'm going to watch this back and I'll probably take some of it myself. So thank you very much. And we will chat soon.
Yeah, sounds good. See you soon. Bye.
Bye now.